Thinking about buying a franchise? Then the How to Buy a Franchise show is just for you. Here's your host, Dr. John Hayes.
Hi, this is John Hayes. I'm at the International Franchise Expo at the Javits Center in New York City. And I'm going to be interviewing Ray Titus, who is the CEO at United Franchise Group. But before I do that, I just want to say hello to our listeners who are on Stitcher Radio and on iTunes, and thank you for tuning in to the podcast. And for those of you who are watching us via video, this is a great pleasure for the How to Buy a Franchise show to be at the IFE. This is the world's premier franchise expo with more than 400 brands. Many of them come from outside of the country because they want to develop in the United States. And many of them, of course, are in the United States looking for opportunities to go international. We get a big international crowd here, particularly on the first day of the show, which is today. Lots of seminars and symposia here. I teach the A to Z's of buying a franchise, which is sponsored by the United Franchise Group, and because it sells out every year, sold out this Saturday, so there's also an extra session on Friday tomorrow. So it's a great pleasure to be here, and Ray, it's a great pleasure to be talking to you and all the wonderful things United Franchise Group is doing. So this is a company that expands across the United States, but also expands internationally. A lot of work. I'll be talking a little bit later in the day to Tony Foley, who handles international for United Franchise Group. So what's the number one challenge that you're facing today as a franchisor? What's happening in Ray Titus's world?
Oh, well, it's good to be here too, John,
Yeah.
and it's exciting. I mean, New York City with the trade show here, all the building that's going on in the city,
Yeah.
and seeing these people. To get into challenges, I would just say our biggest challenge now is picking the right people and making sure we match the right people with the right business. We do have 8 different brands, so it can be a little daunting at times. We started with Sinorama in 1986 right here in New York and on Long Island in
Yes.
Farmingdale, and then 30 years later, here we are with 8 brands and 1,400 franchisees in 80 countries worldwide.
Mm-hmm. So as an educator, I emphasize how to buy a franchise. I don't sell franchises specifically. I help people understand, is it right for me? Because franchising isn't going to work for everybody.
No.
Even though we've got, you've got 8 different brands, and there are some maybe 2,500 to 3,000 brands in North America alone that people can buy, priced from less than $10,000. You have at least one low end with the event planning.
Yep, and Transworld is
again
out of offices.
Yes, working out of offices, and
Yep.
Plan Ahead events working. Do they work out of offices or out of their home?
We're usually out of home, and so we have some of that. We also we start Super Green Solutions, our energy efficient products store. We're starting them in a consulting model where they start from home, start selling products, LED lights, solar panels, air and water purification systems, things like that. And then they move as they add customers and build their business into a showroom model. So there is a progression in some of our brands where they start home-based and then they build and grow the business. Obviously the Sinorama brand is and Embroid Me, those brands are retail locations. They have equipment and employees, and they both do fabulous for the right people.
Yes.
But you need to match up the right people with the right business. And like you said, not every business is for every person.
Exactly. So this is a topic that I want to spend some time with you discussing, the right people. How do you get the right people on the bus? Because if you get too many of the wrong people on the bus is not going to move, or the bus is going to tilt over.
No.
So this is so important, and I emphasize this in all of my training and all of the education that I do about franchising. The first thing to do, forget about which brand you're going to buy. The first thing to do is find out, does franchising work for you? Is it a fit for you? Well, how would I know if it's a fit for me? What do I do?
Well, I think for the first thing folks listening need to do is look at themselves and say, am I suited to run and manage my own business? Am I motivated? Will I get up in the morning? Will I keep the business clean? Am I interested in customer service or sales and marketing? Is it being motivated by money? Is it being motivated by quality of life? There's different motivators for each each person that we put into business over the years. But I would tell you that folks should really focus on the success of the business and the company. Longevity of the company helps. If a company's been in business for a year or two, I probably would shake their hand and find something else, because you want to have, the reason you're going into a franchise is you want a proven program that's been proven over years with a company that's been doing it for years. Yeah. And when you have that, then that's one side of the equation. The other side is culture. I mean, you can't overlook the people that you're doing business with, the type of people. Are they motivating? Are they positive? Are you going to enjoy your life in that type of business? So I think you got to look at yourselves and say, is this something that would be motivating? And yes, is it profitable? Can I make a lot of money? Can I do real well with the business? But am I going to enjoy myself doing this too?
And a key indicator is that a franchisor has already worked out all the kinks. They've already created the program. They've already created the operations manual. So day to day, how the business should operate has already been done for the franchisee. But are you the type of person who wants to look under the hood and figure out why that wire goes to that wire and it doesn't go to that wire? That's the wrong person for a franchise.
I agree. Look, we're not against our franchise owners coming up with new ways to do things. What we tell them is, for the first 6 months, take all your ideas and new things and write them down on a list and put them in a drawer, put tape over the drawer and say, do not open for 6 months. Your first 6 months, we want to focus on building and growing a successful business and being focused on what we know works, not what we think works. So we're going to be more focused on that. After their 6 months in business, John, they get an idea of, hey, have you tried this? Have you tried that? And we may not be interested in idea number 1, 2, and 3, but number 4 may be a gem. So we get our best ideas from our franchise owners. It's just after they've been in business for 6 months.
And one of the things that you provide is training. Yep. So somebody becomes a Plan Ahead Events franchisee. They're going to come to headquarters at West Palm Beach for training. Tell us, how does that work?
Well, each one of our brands, we train in West Palm Beach at our United Franchise Group's
All
headquarters.
8 brands are trained there, yeah.
Correct. And even Accurate Franchising, which is our consulting brand, which helps franchise companies build and grow their business, has training and strategic planning at our headquarters as well. But each one of the brands, we provide a 1 to 2 week training course depending on the business. And we go through every aspect of the business, whether it's how to market and promote and advertise and build and grow the business, hiring employees, everything that's involved in running a successful Sinorama, Transworld, Super Green Solutions, any one of our brands that we have. We're going to teach them all the classroom work. And then when they get back, we're going to have another 2 to 3 weeks where there's a week of a setup and a week of marketing and technical support, where they're going to learn in their own store how to run and manage their business. We also provide a week, 3 to 5 days with an existing franchise owner, where they can go out and shadow that owner for 3 to 5 days. We call that the mentor program. And so they go out and they spend a mentor time with somebody that's already running a successful Embroid Me or a successful Super Green Solutions.
Yeah. So one of the things, and still talking about getting the right people into these training programs to buy the franchise, I have seen through the years, and I've been involved in franchising since 1979, so it's been a long time, and mostly as a writer and a speaker and as an educator, but I have seen numerous personality surveys. Like, one of the best, I believe, is the Franchise Navigator. In all of my books and things that I write, I send people to that site to take the Franchise Navigator survey, because it will tell them very quickly whether or not they match up with the values and the requirements of various franchise businesses. But there are others besides the Franchise Navigator. Some franchisors have their own. Some franchisors develop their own tests over a period of time, or they modify them. What do you think about profiling and surveying people? Is this something you embrace and you like that idea?
No, I think it's good. I think anything that people can use to determine whether they're a good fit for a brand is excellent. We at United Franchise Group, we go through a step-by-step process on each person. We look first, we've got to have a motivated buyer. We've got to have a motivated owner, somebody that's going to run and manage a business successfully and build and grow the business and lead their team. Next is financial. We don't put people in business undercapitalized. I mean, the reason people fail in their own business is really two main reasons. It's they're either undercapitalized or they're undereducated, and they don't know what they're doing. So
Right.
we're going to eliminate both of those reasons for failure because we're not putting anybody in business undercapitalized, and we're going to give them the education they need to run a successful business, the tools, everything they need to run and manage their own business.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that. As far as figuring these folks out, we're going to invite them in for a Discovery Day tour.
Yes.
And in that Discovery Day tour, they're going to not only meet franchise owners, but they're going to meet 6-7 different staff members in our company. After that trip, they're going to get a really good understanding of our company, our business, everything that we're doing. But then we have a team meeting and we go through each individual that comes in for Discovery Day. So while the individuals are coming on Discovery Day and they're determining whether this is the right company or business for them, we're also doing the same thing from our end. And
Exactly.
so it's a two-way street. We
Yeah.
have to determine whether they're a good fit for us
Yes.
and go from there. So
Perfect.
we do that ourselves.
Yeah, perfect. So I think it's very interesting. You said there are two reasons why people will fail. They don't have enough money, which is usually what the experts tell you. Well, if people who fail in business were undercapitalized, well, Mr. Trump has failed a few times, and he's not undercapitalized in any business he gets into. And so I used to believe that as well as an educator. I'd say, yeah, if you don't have enough money, you're going to fail, and this is the number one reason. But it's not. Your number 2 point, undereducated, which is a polite way of saying it. It's people who, look, I've given you the system, but you won't follow the system. Yeah, of course you ran out of money because for 6 months you've been doing everything that I told you not to do, and you've used up all your money. Now you could say you failed because you're undercapitalized, but that's not true. You failed because you didn't follow the system.
What led to the undercapitalization?
Exactly right. You had plenty of money when you got involved. We made sure that you did. You had an extra 100,000 or 75,000 or 200,000, whatever it is, but because you didn't do the advertising the way we said, you didn't put the proper trucks on, you didn't hire the people who we said, you didn't do this or you didn't do that. Yeah, of course you ran out of money. So getting this education right, which is why I love what I do, because it's helping people understand first and foremost, should you be a franchisor or should you be a franchisee? What makes sense for you?
Right.
And it's what works for one. Like you would be a horrible franchisee, Ray. I wouldn't want you as my franchisee, but you are a great franchisor because you understand how to tweak a business to make it operate. But that's not who you want as a franchisee. You want the operator, somebody who's going to follow the system.
Yeah, we're not looking for robots in the same breath. We do look for creative people that want to run and manage your business, but I always go back to, hey, those first 6 months. Because if you can get a business successful and up and running and going in the right direction in the first 6 months to a year, you got yourself a really good business. And then they make little tweaks here and there. It's not a big deal. You start making changes in the beginning, and you could never follow the program after that.
Right.
So I would have to agree with your assessment about me.
I know you well enough.
I've been in franchising for 30 years, and I look at things a little differently. But we have some massively successful franchise owners that run and manage their own business, and they have multiple locations, and they run big operations, 20, 30, 40,000 square feet with, oh my gosh, dozens and dozens of employees. So it really depends on the individual that's building and growing the business.
Yes, and that's a perfect segue to what I want to talk about next. You have a married couple who are franchisees who did things so well, who I wrote an article about not long ago, and I'm going to update it here in the near future when they come back from their vacation. And that is the Heatons in North Carolina. So here is a couple, and if you've read my blog, you've seen this story already. where the Heatons said, look, we're going to buy a franchise. Had never been franchisees before. They had operated in retail businesses before, service businesses, but we're going to buy a franchise. But why would you buy a franchise? Well, of course, to make money, to enjoy life, to enjoy a business, to be credible, etc., to represent a brand. But the number one reason you buy a franchise is to resell it.
That's right.
Nobody ever says that, which is why I loved interviewing the Heatons, because they said, we bought it, and they invested maybe under $200,000 in the initial Signorama that they bought in a small city in North Carolina.
Yeah, South Carolina.
It was South Carolina. Okay.
Orangeburg, South
That's
Carolina.
That's right across the border, right.
Yeah.
And they sold that for $1.2 or $1.5 million.
They did.
And they were thrilled. And I interviewed them shortly after the sale. And they said this worked exactly the way we intended. We invested a small amount of money, we got a big payout, and now we're going to enjoy ourselves. Well, not for long, because many times franchisees find, I'm too young to retire, and the Heatons are a young couple, so they were way too young to retire. So what did they do? They went and bought another United Franchise Group business, this time Transworld.
Yeah.
They decided to become into the business brokerage business. And so they've been on vacation, so I haven't had the opportunity to interview them again, but I will soon, and I'm going to update my article. But this is... How often have you ever heard a franchisee say, look, Ray, I'm only buying this because I plan to resell it in 5 years, and I'm going to resell it for 10 times what I'm putting into it.
Yeah, you rarely hear that because everybody's focused on now.
Yes.
Everybody's focused on what's going on right now. And in training school, we actually talk about long-term and short-term planning and how franchise owners need to look at what's the exit strategy. Is it to pass it on to family? For instance, I've been at this for 30 years. I have 3 kids that are 24, 22, and 19. In fact, this is the first trade show. All 3 of them are attending with me.
So the millennials are here.
They're here.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm going to be looking at down the road of passing the business on to the next generation. We have many franchise owners that want to do that and pass their legacy on to another generation and help them take a step up.
Yeah.
But franchise owners typically don't come in with a good exit strategy and don't look at that. The Heatons, perfect example. They ran the business profitably for 12 years, I think it was, and they did a fantastic job, built up the business, actually ended up buying a building and running a big business. But from there, they ended up selling for a large, as you mentioned, well over $1 million. A great situation for them and for the business and for their family. But they were too young to retire, and they spent I think it was a handful of months and did some travel and all of a sudden I got the call.
Right.
Okay, and it's the Ray, we want to take a look at another business, and United Franchise Group's the only company we would want to do business with, and Transworld fit them perfect because they could build it from their home. It didn't have any manufacturing equipment.
Right.
It didn't have to hire any employees. They didn't have inventory to worry about. They could just focus on marketing and advertising and building and growing their business. Mm-hmm. So that's what they did. Yeah. And that is just a fantastic testimony to United Franchise Group, but really the Heatons. They're the ones who did it.
Yeah.
They're the entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and they understood that exit strategy, and this is a good place for us to take our exit from this interview. Your time is very valuable, and I appreciate it, Ray. And I want to wrap up here at the International Franchise Expo. Tune in to my podcast on a regular basis. You'll find them at iTunes and Stitcher Radio. And, of course, visit howtobuyafranchise.com, where I will provide a variety of great educational tools that you can use to determine if franchising is for you, and if it is, which franchise would be right for you, and maybe it'll be one from United Franchise Group.
Thank you for listening to How to Buy a Franchise Show. If you want immediate assistance, visit howtobuyafranchise.com to contact Dr. John Hayes for a free consultation.